Hey everybody, I'm JJ Johnson. You're watching Reality Survival. So today what we're going to do is I had a viewer, Jamie, I think. He kind of challenged me to come up with another video. He said one, and then I was like, just by pure coincidence, I happened to be releasing that video the other day. It was the one on survival terminology that I did the other day. And then he's like, well, let's see if we can do it again. And he's like, how about doing a video on, instead of doing a survival instruction video on what to do, well, let's see if you can do a video on what not to do. And so that is what this video is about. So I just sat down and I tried to come up with some things related to bugging in, to staying in your home, and things that you would want to avoid if you were in a SHTF situation, a grid down situation where you don't have public utilities, you don't have power, water, those kinds of things, but you've decided that it's safe enough to go ahead and stay in your home for the time being. Maybe you live a little outside of town or in a rural town or something, or whatever the case may be. I don't really know, but basically these 25 things are things you don't want to do if you're going to stay in your home. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. First one is don't burn treated lumber. In an urban setting or any kind of setting in a city, you may be trying to gather firewood, like at construction sites or off of your back deck or something like that, and you want to be really careful. Make sure that you don't burn treated wood, because some of the old treated wood, the old CCA treated wood that's kind of got a green color to it, actually had like arsenic and stuff in it, and it can make you sick if you smell the smoke. So stay away from that. Number 2 is don't cook inside unless you have some kind of an exhaust system, to make sure that all the carbon monoxide and everything is going outside your home. Just a simple exhaust fan in many instances is not going to be sufficient for, cooking over an open flame inside your home. So, you may just recognize that you may need to come up with some sort of a plan, maybe on a little hibachi grill or something like that, or your barbecue grill outside, or a portable stove or something out on your back deck, or whatever the case may be. But you don't want to do it enclosed inside, because you can get carbon monoxide poisoning. Okay, so the next thing is don't board up the windows from the outside. You want to board up your windows from the inside if at all possible. And the reason for this is twofold. One, if it's done on the inside, it's not very easy for somebody to, like unscrew them or whatever. And then by the same token is if somebody was to throw rocks or something at the windows, the glass is going to break and stay on the outside of the house. You won't have to worry about, if they're hitting the board and trying to break it and breaking glass on the inside of your home and that kind of thing. Same thing with if bullets were fired, if there were shots fired or whatever, if it got really intense or whatever for some reason and they start to shoot, then the glass is going to be falling basically to the outside. It's just one less hazard to have to deal with. So just a thought. I mean, there could be differing thoughts on that one, I suppose. Okay, so don't cook with galvanized metal containers. My understanding on this is that if you're cooking with an open flame on galvanized metal containers, you can get some nasty chemicals that can be released into the water or whatever the food is or whatever. And I think that one was pretty sure that one was actually one that Jamie suggested in the comment, and I think this one is as well. And he said don't burn green lumber or pine for a long term in your fireplace or your wood burning stove. And the reason is that can actually build creosote up on the lining of the chimney walls, and it can actually catch fire, and you can cause a chimney fire, and the house can catch on fire and all that kind of stuff. So you want to stay away from that. You really want to try to burn seasoned wood only, and that's wood that has laid down or have been cut down for at least a half a year, if not a full year. Okay. Number 6, don't assume that your walls will provide you with functional cover. They do provide concealment because people are not able to see through the walls, but pretty much any pistol or rifle round out there can shoot through standard house walls. So if you're worried about gunfire, then you need to take some additional steps to make sure that your walls are bulletproof, and that could be something like putting sandbags up on the inside of your home or something along those lines. But just understand that standard housing, house walls will not stop bullets. So take that into consideration, especially if you're any kind of tactical situation like that. Just understand that bullets can travel through many layers of walls. Okay, let's see here. And I don't really have these in any particular order necessarily, but don't try to heat your entire house. I think I mentioned this in a video the other day. If you're having to stay in, the best thing to do is whatever your heat source is, if you've got a pellet stove or if you've got a fireplace or whatever your heat source is that you're using, have everybody sleep in one smaller room. That way you don't have to use as much energy to heat that room while you're sleeping. And you can have the rest of the house basically shut off. And that's going to help just save a lot of energy. Okay. If your sewer is still functional, so if the sewer is still flowing and you don't have any kind of a backup condition, if you manually flush the toilet, which I think I did a video on the other day as well, make sure that you've got enough water in the S-trap so that no sewer gases come back up and start leaking into the home and stuff like that. That can be pretty unpleasant. In a bug-in situation, if it has gotten bad enough, and this is kind of a discretionary point at which you'll have to figure, you may want to make sure that no light is shining out of your windows. Okay, and essentially, if you've got them boarded up on like the bottom level, then that's obviously going to take care of that. But on the upper level, you may still need to black those out. And you could do that with aluminum foil. You could do it with spray painted black or whatever. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Maybe wool blankets or something like that. You just have to figure out what resources you have. But essentially, you just want the house to look dark, and you don't want any light to be able to shine through because you just want it to look unoccupied. You don't want it to stand out or anything like that. You don't want to attract any attention to it whatsoever. Especially if you're running a generator and nobody else is or whatever. But when it comes to running generators, that is a little bit of a concern because it can attract attention. So you might be tempted to run, and this is number 10, you may be tempted to run the generator inside of your garage without, with the door closed. Don't do that. Again, you can run the risk of carbon monoxide. That carbon monoxide could seep through in the rest of your home. That could cause a real big problem. You might be able to set up a situation where you have it vented with a hose, from your exhaust pipe on your generator, run out the door or something along those lines, and several feet away. That could be a potential option to help keep the sound down. But you really got to be careful with this because if that vent hose falls off, then you could find yourself, having to deal with that carbon monoxide. Okay, do not drink water without treating it or boiling it. Even if the pipes, for whatever reason, maybe they come back on briefly or something along those lines, the water treatment plant hasn't been up and running efficiently. And so you can't guarantee that water is actually treated right. So don't drink any water that comes out of the pipes after it has stopped for a period of time, unless you purify it. And the same thing goes if you gather groundwater from out and around your neighborhood or whatever. Then you want to make sure that you obviously treat that as well. Don't let candles burn unattended. Man, I tell you what, Candles cause a lot of house fires, especially in third world countries and stuff like that, where people are used to using them more and they get complacent with them. And so you want to try not to leave candles burning unattended. It's just an accident waiting to happen. So move them from room to room with you, or whatever the case may be, but just ensure that you're using them safely anyway. All right, that was 12. So 13 is don't use space heaters without the proper ventilation if that is required. Now, it depends on the kind of space heater that you have on whether or not you're going to need to have ventilation with that, use it with it. Again, carbon monoxide is the problem there. So just make sure that you take a look at the owner's manual, all that kind of stuff, and find out if the type of space heater that you're using is one that you can use without ventilation, or if you need to have a couple windows open, or whatever the case may be. Okay, number 14. Do not answer the door without a firearm, and having someone watch the back entrance when you do answer. Common tactic for thieves is to, one person will come up front in the front door and they'll try to distract you up at the front door while the other person is coming inside the back door and either grabbing some stuff and running, or, come back and kind of, hit you over the head or shoot you or whatever the case may be. So anytime that you're answering the main front door, if you have to, or if you choose to, and you should really debate whether or not you choose to do that, make sure you've got somebody covering your back and somebody watching the back door at the same time. Okay. Do not sleep without at least one person on watch. You need to have, in a heightened critical situation like this, where there's a lot of tension and a lot of potential for violence, you really, really need to have a person on watch 24/7. Somebody needs to be looking out and, just up and awake and alert, so that you can be aware if anybody is trying to enter the home or anything like that. It's not necessarily saying that you need to be looking outside the window, although it wouldn't be a bad idea to have some way to do that. Maybe gun ports cut in your boards or whatever the case may be. But somebody should be alert. If everybody's all asleep all at once, that is a recipe for disaster, and for, you being able to find yourself behind the power curve because somebody has, attacked the home or entered the home, and whatever the case may be. So make sure you got somebody on watch. Number 16, don't store fuel close to an open flame or heat sources. I mean, that's kind of common sense, but it could cause problems. Number 17, don't barricade all the exits. You need to have at least one or two that can still be easily opened from the outside. Now, maybe you want to have like a board over it with some, some like L-shaped brackets or whatever that are, that hold the board behind the door, so that nobody can get in, but you can still easily get out. That might be one possibility. But you need to be able to leave the home in case there's a fire in the home, or in case somebody comes in one door, and you could still leave the other. You just need to think about exits, because it's easy to develop a mentality that you've got all your eggs in one basket and you're not coming out of this house. But the simple reality is there's multiple different situations that could force you to leave that home. And so you need to be thinking about how you could do that in an expedient manner if it was necessary. Okay. Number 18. Don't go outside during daylight hours if it is at all possible. Now, it might not be possible. You may still have to go to work. I mean, it depends on the severity of the situation. If this is a long, slow decline, you may still have to, be going to work. But if it's a really bad situation and it's very violent, and you've decided, hey, I'm not going to work anymore because it's just not safe, or maybe your employer has told you guys, hey, we're closed, it's too crazy, stay home, or whatever the case may be, try not to go outside during daylight. And this is kind of a double-edged sword, but The thing is that when you go outside during daylight hours, people see you, you're attracting attention, kind of drawing, onlookers. If you go out at night, you're going to have a lot more lower profile. However, it can be more dangerous too, because criminals and thugs and all that kind of stuff can be moving around, and you may not see them until it's too late and all that kind of stuff. So leaving your home is an endeavor that should be taken seriously, and you should plan about how you want to do it. You want to, probably always do it in pairs if you have the ability to do that. It's kind of a risky thing, because if it's gotten such, scary enough that you're boarding yourself inside the home, you need to try to stay in there as much as you can. However, that being said, you do also need to plan for the eventuality that you do have to leave. You may have to collect water, you may have to collect firewood, you may have to collect whatever, So maybe you're going to check your traps, maybe you got, there's a lot of different things that could force you to have to leave. So have a plan for doing that, and I would try to avoid the daylight hours probably for the most part with me, because, and just a little bit more on this and I'll move on, but if it has gotten that bad, chances are that a lot of the criminals will do most of their looting and all that kind of stuff during the day, because the law enforcement at this point has probably broken down and they're not afraid about being caught. So it's easier for them to operate during the day, and that's probably what they'll do. And this is a guess. If your environment is more dangerous at night and it's safer during the day, well, then you have to adjust that. Okay, number 19. Don't allow trash to accumulate outside of your home. People probably not going to be coming to get trash, and the trash man's not. And so you want to avoid just letting bags and bags and bags pile up outside your house, because what that tells people is they have resources. They're going through stuff and they're putting their trash out. So you probably want to dispose of your trash somewhere off-site. Now, it might be possible that you could burn it. That's, again, going to be something that's going to probably draw attention to you. So you probably want to come up with some sort of an alternative to dump it somewhere off-site if need be. And you don't probably want to keep it inside, because that's not going to be sanitary. Could draw in rats. It could cause additional sickness and all that kind of stuff. So having a plan for your trash is something that you want to think about. Okie dokie. Number 21. Don't run the generator, if you have one, unnecessarily. You probably only need to run a generator about, maybe 3-4 hours a day, something like that. And that's basically going to be just to charge batteries and, let the freezer, refreeze all the food again. You really want to think about what you want to do as far as how often you want to run the generator. The other thing is, you can also explore solar options for that. If you've got solar generators and stuff like that, then that's definitely going to be a better option too. Okay, although those solar panels are probably going to be pretty sought after, so if people see them sitting out in your yard, then they're going to be a target as well. Number 22, don't give warning shots. If someone is trying to invade your home and all that kind of thing, and clearly they're armed and dangerous and all that, you don't negotiate and don't give warning shots. It's just my thought. Number 23, don't respond to a ruse. Never trust a criminal. And, you really got to be careful about, if there's a crying child or looks like a desperate young woman or something like that beating at your door, pleading for help. You really need to think about whether or not you should answer that door. That could very well be a ruse just to get you to open the door, and then once your door is open or they're inside, and other people may descend on the house or whatever the case may be. So it might be best to just ignore any of those things. But that's a moral and ethical decision that you're going to have to think about. How well prepared you are to respond to something like that. If you're a single older elderly couple and that's the only two people in the house, then you may not want to respond because you probably can't handle it very well. But if if you've got a family of 5 and they're all teenage boys that know how to use a gun or whatever the case may be, and you feel like you can handle it, then you might go ahead. But responding to a ruse can be risky. Number 24, don't leave your cars parked outside. If you have the opportunity to do so, park them in the garage, have them backed in. That way you can be ready for a quick exit if it was needed. Everybody's seen those movie shows, right, where you just crash through the garage and go. I don't know if I'd do that because you're probably going to break your windshield, but having it backed in, ready to go, maybe partially loaded with some of your bug out, load out supplies, or whatever the case may be, could be a good idea. If you've got 2 cars and only 1 garage or whatever, then obviously just don't park in front of the garage so that car could get out. But anyway, number 25. Don't let the pets outside unless that's needed. That's another thing. It's just raising your signature and all that kind of stuff. If you've got dogs barking or if you've got cats running around a place or whatever the case may be, that's just something else that's raising your signature. And people might be trying to get additional protein for dinner, and so your kitty cat and your dog might end up getting eaten. So only let them outside basically when they need to, for sanitary reasons and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, guys, this was just it's kind of a question of the week kind of thing. Jamie kind of just threw it out there to see if I could do something that talked about some of the things you don't want to do, some of the things you want to avoid, and that's pretty much what this was. If you guys have a particular question that you would like to see discussed on the channel, then please put it in the comments below, or you can email me at realitysurvival@gmail.com. Also looking for preppers and survivalists who might be interested in joining a prepper group in the Cheyenne, Wyoming area. So if that is you, then shoot me an email. And what else did I forget to put on the list? I'm sure there's a ton of other things that you guys could think of. Stick those in the comments and add to the discussion below. And as always, I definitely appreciate it when you click the thumbs up button, when you share it with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. And don't forget to live the 6 Ps. Proper prior preparation prevents poor performance. Stay safe, guys.